evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today on
Host Asaf
almost
Avidan.
you were like a new favorite singer, like I was saying earlier off the air. Usually you have singers and musicians you do, through your career and your life. And I'm a big fan of music, but man, I came across your music recently and your voice and your lyrics and your music is just so exciting to me. And I
Thank
was like, I have to.
you.
And then it just happened to have your album coming out. Like it literally just all coincided.
Serendipity, my friend.
It is. And let's just hop into it because I mean your voice to me is so many different emotions at once. And I almost feel like with an inflection or a word, it changes. That's the way I hear it. I'm sure everybody hears it differently, which
Mm.
makes it so powerful, whatever song you're doing.
Mm.
Did you ever have a problem with that starting out? Like,
I mean, there's a reason so my own biography is a bit strange. I wasn't one of those kids who had a guitar at age whatever and tried to be a whatever pop rock star. I studied cinema, then I studied animation. I was an animator for a while until my kind of late 20s, and I was very happy with it. And then all of a sudden, my life took a big swirling change, and I kind of lost a lot of things in the same year. So I quit my job. I didn't really believe in the medium that I was investing in. I split up with my girlfriend. I left my apartment. I left the city I was living in. And there was just an inescapable ocean of emotions that needed to outlet itself in some form. And music there's this thing that there's an outletting of like the physicality of it. You outlet something that's inside, just the air, you
Mhm.
compress your lungs through your muscles and you let it out and you allow your face to open and allow these things to come out of you. And then the magical thing is that that air compression reverberates in the room. It almost like, sonar of bats or something. It reflects from surfaces around you, from the other, from everything that is not you, and reflects back to you, and you regurgitate whatever it is that you just outlet. And for some reason, that immediate regurgitation of these emotions became very important for me, just for my own personal therapeutic
Mhm.
horrible reasons. And that's the only and it's almost 20 years later now that's the reason I keep on making music, and that's how I sing. I sing because there is an avalanche of emotions that if I do not let out, it will cement in my bloodstream and it will weigh me down to an abyss that I cannot fathom. And so it's always survivalistic, and there's always I try to focus on an emotion, one single, lens, focus on one single emotion, but it never feels honest because there's
Mm.
always conflicting things in there. And when you hear, I don't know, the greats, like you hear Billie Holiday sing, there's never just sadness or just nostalgia or
Right.
whatever. There's so much in it. There's a world of human spectrum of emotions, and that's where I'm drawn to.
That's funny because that's actually Billie Holiday stuff I listen to. I listen to a lot of genres, but that's where I feel you fit because with like three or four, it could be like love and hurt and pain and honesty. Like each one's like a wire, and then like all the wires are tied together, and then that's your voice coming out at once because it's just so many
Yeah.
different things at once. You know what I mean? And it's such a great, rich complexity. And I know like you know people like, oh, you like voices sound a certain way, but your voice is so different and so special. And a lot of people don't always get that right away. You know,
I understand that. I mean, you can say special, you can say weird, you can say
I think it's special. I think it's special. I heard it brilliant. I go brilliant. But
thank you. I
I'm
do
just go for
appreciate it.
recording, so in production and video, so I get it. I think it's
No,
beautiful.
but yeah, yeah. So first of all, I really appreciate it, but I do understand that it's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's not
No.
really what I'm going for. Like as I said, because it was and it still is like something that I really need to do. The secondary thought process of what will it how will it affect anybody else
Hmm.
is really, and I know every artist wants to say this, but I want to believe that this is true about me, that it's really true. Like it's not that I don't care that you feel something for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't invest so much of my effort
Right.
to release it. But it has to be precise enough for me to feel that it's honest in my
Mhm.
own archaeological search of my own self. That's the point.
It feels, and I always feel like there's in the music field, there's competition versus composition, I feel. And in the
Mm.
music industry, like and just in between, like competing with the songs and new albums and releases, and a lot of artists get forced into that thing. But like you taking this much time to being inspired, you're a composer, you're in the composition part, which
Mm.
I think it allows an artist to grow and last almost like their whole career without a burnout. Career burnout, like you know what I'm saying? Because it allows you to be creative without feeling you're like in a corner and you have to come with that next hit. Like
Yeah.
like you're being honest to how it comes to you is what I'm saying. You're not being like, some bands are like, oh, we had 3 albums that really kind of sucked. We were under
Mm.
contract, we had to do it. And I don't feel like that's the spot you're in because you took a long time to do this album because you
Yeah.
weren't there,
Yeah.
which is very honest because you could have done a copy of your last recording. You could have, but you didn't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were true to
Yeah.
yourself. And I think that's an important thing as an
To
artist.
anybody that doesn't know, like I had this anomaly, like I feel that I always do the kind of music that I want to do. And success is, it might come and it might not, but we'll see when that happens. But I had this anomaly that somebody remixed my one of my songs, even without my consent, and it just went huge, and it was like a number one hit. And so I've touched commercial success. And of course, since then the labels are like, whoa, we should do another remix and all these kind of things. But I don't know, like I'm I think I'm very lucky that I got, because I started music at a fairly late age for most musicians. Um, I don't know. I had cancer when I was young. I had like I don't know, like there was like I can name like 100 stories that about like the fragility of life and the importance of what is important in life, and the realization, I don't know, like this chasing of a phantom figment of an imagination of like success in quotation
Right.
marks. And like there's this Leonard Cohen quote when they ask him, what is success to you? And he says, longevity, like if I'll be here when I'm, uh, I don't know, at a certain age. That's really what it is. Like, can you still create something that you feel that you will sleep at night knowing that
Mhm.
you've put in all the resources in order to make it the precise translation of your own demons and shadows, and that's, I don't know, I need that to be able to survive. So everything else becomes secondary or way down the line of importance. And so yeah, it took me a while to get to the point, because it wasn't that I wasn't writing, it was just I wasn't writing something that was translating what I was really feeling, the multitude of contradicting emotions of awe and panic about this out of focus experience of losing of the self.
Well, it's clear you have such a confidence of who you are, and obviously I think starting late in life and all that you've gone through establish who you are, not coming into a different way. I think to me, success is kind of what you're doing, and what a lot of artists can do is you can pay your bills, you can create art, you can take care of your family, and you can still do what you love. That's
I
kind of
mean,
success. And then the bonus is people coming to see, you know what? Your song got me through this moment, got me through this moment. That's like a bonus,
you're
you know?
absolutely right. It's a dream. It's a dream. The fact that I can, like this masturbatory process from my ivory tower, that I can just, work in this philosophical zone of myself, and all this, this translation and of the self through a medium of art, and then somehow be able to pay the bills with that and to help my family, my friends. and to make a living so I can continue doing just that,
Mhm.
that's how I spend my days, is miraculous and wondrous. There's not a day that goes by that I am not um like, I don't want to say surprised, because surprise seems, like artificially modest. Like, I work hard, but it is like I realize how much of it is luck and these moments of grace that I don't know where they come from.
It sounds like you're always appreciative. You're not cheated. You're just always appreciative of what you have in front of you at the moment.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
would say that.
I think the danger is because I mean, you get to a level of some bands where they're like, just platinum album, and also like your business. So you've got that album where you do the pressure to do an album because you've got a crew and trucks, and you know what I mean. You're taking care of other families. Also, you're like a president of a company, and you're also the singer of a band. Like that's the danger of some bands when they get so out of control in commercially, because
Yeah,
that's the avenue they started because they wanted to be big rock stars. But you're like
yeah,
an artist that's just getting successful. So your navigation is going to be very different than
yeah.
that.
I would lie if I wouldn't say that I have an ego in there. Like, artists, I think good artists are always this kind of balancing act between this megalomaniac, narcissistic side of you that you have to have in order to want to get on a stage in front of 30,000 people
Mhm.
and have them appreciate something that you've created. But there's always the side that is like this imposter syndrome. I'm nothing, everybody will be on to me in 2 seconds. I can't do this. I shouldn't, like I'm a waste of, skin. And as long as those two sides coexist together, I think you can be a healthy, long living human, but artist. And I think any tilt to one side becomes a bit pathetic in its own way.
I can see that. I almost, to me, when I hear ego, I think ego's okay. It's not like the mega ego. Like, an ego to me is just ego is just being belief in yourself and confidence. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean there's anything bad. And of course, you should have ego. Everyone should have ego to be successful and believe in yourself because I mean that's healthy. You know,
Mhm.
everything else, then it can get crazy. The selfishness with ego is where that's where it gets goofy.
I
I
think where,
think,
where ego takes control is where you stop questioning. Like, as long as you question it and you keep
yeah.
on questioning your decisions and not taking things, on their face value, and you keep on not truly believing like, water flows in the easiest course always.
Hmm.
And it's true on so many levels. And it's easy to start believing, like, once success starts and you get, you're bombarded with all these kinds of, I don't know, appreciations of you, but it's not really you. It's a very small part of something that you did. I don't know. It gets very easy to flow into that narrative of grandness. If
Hmm.
you're not constantly a bit cynical about it and a bit questioning about it, once you start believing this thing, it becomes a bit pathetic. And also, once you start making it just a business, as you say, that happens to a lot of
Right.
people, it becomes, I don't know, it loses the entire point of it. But I'm not naive enough. I understand there is an industry behind us.
Mhm.
And I understand that some people, that's what interests them, to partake in that commercial success part. And if that's your path in life, I have no judgment.
Video background and creative background to begin with. Obviously, that pulls right into what you do, like almost like full multimedia, right? Because that's you're thinking with your videos, you have a different mindset when you do production. I almost think it would have played to your songs too, because
Mm.
doing editing and that's a different kind of mindset than being kind of loose about music on some level. So putting them together, those two worlds, has it affected your songwriting or how you
I think coming from,
create?
I guess, I would have to answer yes because I can't see how it would like if somebody would describe to me a person that came from 10 years of working in you know like with a visual mindset and then transitioned into music, I wouldn't imagine that they could release themselves from that. And but I don't feel it. If it's there, it's something very instinctive. I mean, I a lot of the times think of music when I create it in terms of a landscape. There is a visual to it, but it's
Hmm.
not cinematic in that sense. It's what I love about what I love about music is the difference between that and cinema.
Hmm.
Cinema is I mean it depends what kind of cinema, but I guess maybe not. I guess cinema can. No, because
Trip
then
you up there.
I'm
It,
thinking
it's a,
about like, Stanley Kubrick or Kurosawa, and I'm like, wait a minute, cinema can be poetry in the sense that what I love about music and poetry is that one plus one equals infinity. It
right.
never equals two. And like when you juxtapose two words together, or certainly two sentences together, and then a chorus,
Hmm.
and then whatever, it like that there's so many angles that you are awakening. And there was in the beginning, I had this I don't know, endless pain from not being able to believe that what I am translating is what I want to show. So if I go down into my personal abyss and I find an endless, infinite ocean, and I'm like, oh, I want Sean to see this. The best I could do is I can cup it in my hands and run through the tunnel back up to the world,
Right.
and by the time I get back to you, I have like a I don't know, like a drop of salt water on my finger, and I'm like,
You're
look
left.
at the ocean. And that unbridgeable gap, that chasm used to be
Hmm.
very depressing to me. Then my thought process became, I don't need to show you the ocean. The ocean exists in every single one of us. You can see the ocean if you just, twist your eyeballs down your throat into your own chest and
Hmm.
your own soul. What I need to do is conduct like a spark of an awakening for you in order for you to find your own soul in it. Like if you
Hmm.
see me, I haven't done my job. What I want to show is the universal emotional landscape of a conscious being. And I don't think I'm unique. I think if I strip down enough layers of my own, I find a universal core of humanity that you or somebody or a 78 lady in Uganda or a 6-year-old in of I don't know, Beijing can still they will hear something and it will resonate in them.
Right.
Like it shouldn't matter. And that's what I love about it. And so to answer your question, do I see something in like do I have some visual thought process about my writing? Somewhere in the background I see colors or I see scenes or I see something, but I don't feel that I feel that those are Jungian archetypes more than they are my education of
Right.
cinema.
Well, it's funny you say see
Me,
colors. Do you write? I'm sorry, actually, I can add this here too. You can answer this one too, but do you actually see colors when you write? Are you one of those people?
no, it's not like synesthesia or whatever it's called, but like like the last album, like Unfurl, I really saw in my mind's eye a place. I don't know if you call it meditation, if you call it lucid dreaming, if you call it I don't know, divine vision. Whatever the semantics are, whatever you want to call it. I saw a place. I saw a cave and I saw a purple liquid and I thought, "Oh, that's my consciousness." And do I think that that's a real place? No. Do I think that my subconscious is using conscious constructions in order to show
Right.
me something? Probably. But that's an interesting thing, like it's kind of like the most interesting thing to me about dreams is not the dreams themselves, like the interpretation of our dream is what is the interesting part, because that
Right.
says more about me than the dream itself. Um, so it's kind of like that. Did I see a place? Yeah, kind of. Do I see colors? Yeah, kind of. But I really think it's just there is a part in writing to me that's I'm trying to reach this blurry outline of a border between the conscious and the subconscious. I need to be disassociated from myself enough to dive down into that stream, but associated enough in order to have the capacity to write it down, to put structure upon it. And that's a weird, like shamanistic almost experience, a walk between the real and the invisible. The thing about Jung is that he was one of the two fathers of psychology,
Right.
psychoanalysis, analysis, and he was a Western intellectual, like he was ashamed. All his life, he worked in secret on this thing that was released, years after his death, which is called the Red Book, which is a intellectual's search for spirituality, is what I would call it. And it's written not as a search. It's not like it's written as almost like a new Bible kind of thing. But he is a person that understands, he created the idea of the subconscious and the archetypes within it. So he realizes that there's this, and it's kind of this back and forth, beautiful game between a person who is a hyper intellectual and hyper, his mind works in labeling things and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But then he understands that humans need to have spiritual existences as well. And what is the new spirituality of that generation? And then Joseph Campbell continues that thought. Joseph Campbell is a researcher of comparative mythologies, very famous. Um, and so I was reading the Red Book, which, if you want to learn Jungian psychology, that's not a book to read. But if you're
No.
interested in this weird David Lynchian spirituality, then that's a great place to start. And he
Because I was
illustrated.
looking at that book in my like list of books to download, and I was like,
It's
I don't
not
know
an
which
easy
one I want to.
read.
I want to ask you. No, what I was going to ask you. There's like a bunch of books. I'm like, what would be the book that would get me kind of to where we are with this discussion? Because this album has been very interesting to me and very enjoyable, not just on the musical side, on the
Mm.
thinking side.
So like a book, I don't remember what it's called, but something symbols, something and something, like three things. Like these are that's like how you study Jung.
Okay.
Like you kind of like this is very interesting. Like what are the repeating themes of any psyche, of any conscious human? That's super interesting to me. And especially in today's, environment where everybody's just pointing at the superficial differences,
Mhm.
it's so interesting to dive down deeper than the skin into the bone marrow and kind of look for what are the things that unite us and make, you know, and create like fear with a capital F and hope with a capital H and love with a capital L, like
Mhm.
all these underlining currents within us. So I don't know if everybody will find that in Jung. I know that, and I don't even know if I would have found that in Jung, 2 years earlier. It's just it came at a
I'll
very.
peek into it. Thank you for the little bit, a little leaning into it more than go sidetracked in your music. I'm very interested in it and what you said, and I've read what you said. And I've started looking into it myself, so thank you for that. I do want to say, so let's talk. The album itself, the production is
Hmm,
fantastic.
thank you.
You went to a
We were
fantastic
we
studio, and I didn't even realize the studio you went to either.
Okay, so that's so Miraval Studios where we recorded it. It's in the south of France. It belongs to Mr. Brad Pitt. He bought it some years ago. It's a wine estate. They make like one of a famous rosé in France. And it's a huge estate. And inside it, in the 70s and 80s, was a place called Miraval Studios, which is a very, very famous studio. Like my all-time five albums would always include The Wall, Pink Floyd,
Yep.
and it was recorded there. And I was like, damn, like an album like that, you feel like it should have been handed down by God in Mount Sinai. That album is not made. And anyway, it was made there. And the studio was left unused for like 20 years. And when they bought it, Brad Pitt decided to bring some people and I don't know, reincarnate it as a new thing, but keep all the old kind of things that made it what it was.
Yeah.
And they made it like into a state-of-the-art studio. And I always thought that, okay, it's there. And I live in the southwest of France, like, and so it's not so far away from me. But I was like, okay, that's like a mecca that I would never reach. I'm an alternative artist. I have some commercial success, but it's really for the AAA top 40 artists, like A$AP Rocky, Kendrick Lamar, those kind of people go record there. But then this weird event happens. I never name drop because it's very unimportant to me. But this specific, Brad Pitt has a thank you in mention in the album because he came to a show in Paris, of all places, and he came backstage and he congratulated me and we started talking and he said, I have this studio, you should come record. And I said, oh, yeah, I've been trying to write for like 4 years and I'm not making it. So yeah, when I write something, I'll let you guys know. And I thought it would end there, but he said like maybe you should come right there. You can use it as like a writing retreat. It's a beautiful place. And I said, sure, Mr. Pitt, yeah. 'Cause I've met Hollywood, like it's always like let's be friends, and you never hear about it
Yeah,
from
yeah,
them.
I get it.
But we received a message from his assistant the next day, and they really invited us to come. I came, I fell in love with the place because it's hard not to. And then I stayed for a week alone after I tried to dream journal and I tried to do this Jungian meditation kind of technique in order to talk to my subconscious. And I went to Mexico to be in front of the ocean to get away from it. And I didn't write a single word that was worthy. And for some reason, I was in the Miraval estate. Nobody was there. They housed me in this villa in the middle of the woods, away from everything. It was kind of like going into that metaphorical Jungian
Yeah.
cave. I was there. I mentioned Kurosawa before, like there was like rain. It was supposed to be a beautiful week, but it just was a storm and it rained heavily all the time through the windows. And I just stayed there with a guitar and I do not know, the again Leonard Cohen quote, if I knew where songs come from, I would visit more
Right.
often. I don't know why then and there it happened, but the first three songs of the album just dropped out, just flowed out. And then I came home and I played them to my girlfriend, which is brutally honest. And I was like, do I have something? I'm not sure. I think I do. And she was like, you certainly do. Don't let this go. And then I went to the studio. But me and my girlfriend have this thing that we watch old movies together. Every week we have like,
Hmm.
and we were in the momentum of Hitchcock films. And again, I don't know why, but the story, I came back, had these three beginnings of songs on a guitar, and then we started watching Vertigo, and Vertigo starts with this beautiful Bernard Herrmann kind of spiral of a theme. Dee da dee da dee da
Mhm.
dee da dee. And then the brass comes in and it's kind of unnerving. And I was like, wait a minute. I paused it. I was like, that's what I feel. And then I knew I had the album. Like it felt like there was a bite on the fishing
Yeah.
line. And all I needed to do was just and then my mind could
Right.
range free. I had the beginning of that stream of conscious process that led me to the theme of the album. I had this rappy kind of thing because I had a lot of lyrics from this panicked state, so they kind of had to fit in a little space. And I was like, I don't rap, but I guess I do now. And then the cinematic kind of Bernard Herrmann, John Barry tribute and was the last kind of piece of the puzzle. And the album just wrote itself in like a week or two.
It's really good. There's a lot to unpack in that. First of all, I want to say, like, I always think of Brad Pitt. We saw he had the studio a while back, because I love studios. I went to school for it. I was like, this thing's beautiful. This thing is
Mm.
beautiful. And I always think of Brad Pitt as the most successful independent artist ever, despite being
It's
like,
so, it's such a
despite being
good
like good
description.
looking and like still looking like whatever and all. Just I like his big movies, but he's done so many great small movies. But he's just the guy that got successful and wanted to do what he wanted to do, and now he
Yeah.
can do it. And he's just the guy that you can hang out with. That's why I
When
always envision him
I
as.
when you dive down to what he does, like he invests in like a football team he likes in Greece,
Yeah.
and like whatever, and that whole place. By the way, I never met him face to face except that one time in the backstage of the show, but
Really.
I've been to Miraval like 3, 4 times already. And but that whole place, that Miraval thing, like people that he likes their work, or people who work with him, collaborate, they
Mhm.
just go there and they stay there. They create statues, they write screenplays, they edit their movies, they like it's just a beautiful place for artists to be. I think people should really know about. um, and it's another thing that you mentioned about him being an independent kind of artist, like a successful independent artist, is that I couldn't afford it. Like when it came, so I wrote the songs. I was like, great, and they were like, you should come record it here, and I was like, guys, I can't. And they were like, we'll make sure you can. And I was like, it's not about like a 5%, 10% discount.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they really, at the end, they really pushed us to pay whatever we could pay, and they really made us, helped us create this album in the extent that how we wanted to make it, like with no compromises, with no artistic compromises. And we recorded it with like a 40-piece orchestra, and like we did the whole thing, and it's a lot thanks to his and their vision. It's not just him, it's the entire staff there, the people of the estate and the studio. It's really a magical, uh unique place.
Clearly he's somebody had suffered himself younger on, to do his art. So now that he wants to help other artists in the
Yeah,
same spot.
yeah.
I think it's a paid forward. But so the artist sounds good. So I didn't read the official write-up when it came, because I like to listen to music myself, and I'm not that guy because I want to have it in my mind. And I listened to it. Obviously heard all the band stuff. I'm like, you had mastered modern songwriting, but what you did, and of course it plays in with this part, the magic of songwriting of music from the 50s and the 60s, which for people that wouldn't know that are younger, we like songs you'd hear on the Mad Men soundtrack when you're watching Mad Men. Those
Yeah,
beautiful
exactly.
songs, those Herb Albert songs, something by the seashore. Like there's just songs on there. Sometimes they have lyrics. The orchestration are almost like lyrics. And you think, I know the song, and then you go, oh yeah, this song has no lyrics, because it's written in a way you don't even think about it like it's an instrumental. That's what this reminds me of, because it feels like you hit the sweet spot on doing that, but also keeping it, modern. So it's not just like, you know, I think you find a balance. And it was very exciting to hear. When I heard, I was like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that from anybody.
It's a huge compliment, for like, because we really worked hard. I write and compose this, but in this album I also co-produced it, and the idea was, it was a challenge because I'm always kind of like a collage artist. I always like a Tarantino film. Like there's so many references and things that I steal from, and and I'm happy with it. Like I again, from like the first question of the interview or something, where emotions are never, you know, black and white. They're always gray.
Mhm.
And so like I need to portray them within a lot of different tools and colors. And so, how to take this idea that I had of this madman kind of character, what would he sing, like, and how would he dress? And he's like this, there's always almost like a character I've created in the last 4 years of my career now. You'll see him in my videos, you'll see him on the
I get,
stage.
yeah,
Um,
he's a good dresser.
yeah, he's a good dresser. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then better than me for sure. And but yeah, but kind of like the biggest cliche about masks, like they let you be the most you that you
Right.
are, the thing that you cannot portray in your day to day. Like I feel that this version that's talking to you now is semi-castrated, it's semi-subdued, but that person, this man without a name with this 40s madmanish character, I feel that he's able to personify way more of what I'm going through on the inside.
Right.
And there is this nostalgia to this beautiful age of 40s, 50s writing,
Hmm.
both in the cinema world, so like Bernard Herrmann and stuff like that, but also this, like Frank Sinatra, Mel Torme kind of these French and Italian like singers.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but how do you not just get to be like, you don't want it to be like just what the South Park will call, just like member berries, like just like this
Right.
nostalgia. You want to make it mean something, and you want to make it contemporary because I am a product of this world, And so it's a challenge how to mix all these things together. And so I'm first of all, I'm happy that you notice all these different colors of it.
It's funny because I actually went from like right before I heard this, I was on a kick for like Billie Holiday, and I had like a 1940s, it was like a 40s, 50s, and I think 60s playlist. It's like massive. I made in iTunes. And maybe that's why I ended up getting you in my world, maybe. Because that's what I was listening to. I was going through a period of just absorbing it. Because that time period, and I think this album encapsulates it. It's you can listen to any of those albums in a good mood, it's a happy album. You can be in a bad mood, it's a sad album. The album is what you interpret it,
Mhm.
which is perfect for songwriters because it's whatever you want it to be. And those albums, each of those albums could be like the most emotional, moody things, or it could be like, this is an upbeat album. It's the same album, depends where you're at. That was that music because it feels like that was at the beginning of like the world we haven't gotten to where we are now, where it's just insane. Where it's just a ton of fire right now. It's like at that point, everything was you're right at the edge of potential. And these songs, like it's on the edge of what you want it to be. Like nothing's decided for you yet. It's just
Yeah.
open and it's a firm base. And that's what I think that music, the melodies felt like to me. And I think that's what you've definitely grabbed onto in this one. And that's why when I read it, I was like, okay, totally makes sense. But I
Yeah.
didn't want to do it on my own and be like, oh, that's what I'm thinking for my not self. Because
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
No.
mean, it's important to have these things written up too. I'm not putting down the PR people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for me, when I read an
No.
album, I want to be able to sit down and absorb it and then talk to the artist
Absolutely.
about that process. It's
Absolutely. The other thing is like about that music from that time is that it's so rich. In today's music where minimalism is like the lead, it's like the go-to, that maximalist kind of thing that you have so many musicians and they're so talented that they're working together to create harmony, but also dissonance, and also like how do you decide what to do with 40 instruments? What do the flutes play? What do the strings play? What do they play counter melodies, or do they play these
mhm.
carpets of harmonies together? There's so many options to it, and that's what I really loved about it. I wanted there to be more music in every minute of this album than like most complete albums that I hear today with my whatever contemporary colleagues. Um, Not that there's anything wrong with minimalism, but what I was feeling was a maximalist emotional roller coaster, and that's what I wanted to portray.
Well, I would say to this point, because I don't listen as I'm aware of pop music, but like a lot of it lately, I haven't because it doesn't bite me the same. Like yours did. I was like, oh, here we go. This is something I can feel like because that music feels like it was like food, calories, the big chocolate cake, like lots of calories in that music. And
Mm.
nowadays, a lot of it's just like diet gum or something. You know what I mean? Sugar, sac, like it's not even real sugar anymore. Like, but that was just like full of this calories and rich and layers, and you know what I mean? Just purely decadent and really thought out and tested in the kitchens with a lot
It's
of
a
different stuff.
Parisian
Yeah,
patisserie.
it's just awesome. It's just like so. And nowadays, it's like a piece of gum is disposable. So the fact that you're back in the kitchen, but put your apron on, you're cooking again. You know what I mean? You're baking some cakes. I'm like, this is good. This is thought out, you know. And then of course I encourage people to check out the studio. There's links. I mean, go online and look at the beautiful studio online. Just the website there. But the album is fantastic. And of course, going back to your stripped down music too, I gotta be honest with you, for me it's a time where I'm getting drunk on your music almost. You know, I'm intoxicating. Like your stripped down music is just so beautiful unto its own. Like you can just sit down and do one of the best thing is for me, if you write a song, can you just do it on just with your voice? Can you do it with a guitar? Can you do it with a drum beat? Like you can do that. That is a song. That is are you serving a song is what I would say. Are you serving a song? And as an artist, I think that's what you do.
That's that's always the test. Like you want it to be personal, but you don't want it to be just, I don't know, writing. I don't know. It's what I said before. You want it to be so personal that it becomes general. That's
Mhm.
really that line that you want to cross. That it and then it does. It's not. It's about me, so I can feel the feelings that I want to, use it for. But it's not about me, and it never is about me. And that's. I think that's what draws me to it. And I think that's what draws me to poetry in general. When I read, like there's sad moments apropos the PRs and everything that they write. I was just I was just in a museum the other day. I was recording this show for a channel called Arte. They're doing this thing now in Europe that they take artists and they record like a live session in a museum. And I saw like a group of people talking about the art there. I was kind of looking around in the museum before, and just the way they were talking about it, the way that the whatever teacher or whatever it was, um, it was like the not just bad, it was the anti-art. It was like not letting the object speak for its own self. The whole
Right.
thing about art is that sure, it can be contextual, there can be layers that you can figure out if you understand why and how, and but it should be able to speak in and of itself. It's not narrative, it's poetry. It ignites something within you or it doesn't, period. And I don't know, and I feel the same with music. It either if it becomes just me chasing, trying to show you myself, then
Hmm.
what's the point of it? Um, and so yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought there, but that's kind of what the song needs to work, period. And you're right that the production, like you should be able to strip the song down and the
Right.
songwriting should hold. But then there's songs that, sometimes the production is in and of itself.
I get that too. I
Uh,
do. I'm like the same, but like, I think as a songwriter though, your general who you are is the core. If you're not building off of things. I mean, you can of course later on is painting and whatever, but I mean, as a songwriter, you generally don't look to add parts that you don't need before you do it,
yeah,
is what I'm saying.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think art can get dirty. You can touch it. You should be able to do it. Like if I get an album, someone's like, I got an album, I'm like, well, it's great. I'm not gonna ever play it. Well, then I don't want the album. I had an album, I sold it to somebody else because it was like I couldn't play it. Didn't sound sonically great. Great band. And I'm like, yeah, but I can get five Frank Zappa albums I'm gonna listen to because I want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm alive. Like to me, I want to be able to touch things and art's like that and music's like that. And I think one thing about you, and I know you got your time's limited, but I want to say is your self-awareness. And I think that's the difference is, and with your lyrics too, and as an artist with poetry and reading and songs, you're kind of walking everybody down to the ocean. You're and at the edge and you go, what do you think? You think
Mm,
now. With a movie, you go, anybody, I have an idea to tell you a story. And even for someone like me, I get a lot of ideas from movie. Like I think rainy days are the most inspirational, creative moments for me. I don't know what it is. But with the self-aware, I don't think you have to worry about writing for yourself and other people accepting it because probably, there's a psychology, you probably have a book you've read about this, is everyone, because the thing is, if you think about it, like everyone's got the star of their own world. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And I think about that. I'm like, oh, because I get, just like everyone else, I'm like, oh, my phone. I'm like this, but I can't. I'm trying to keep on music stuff or whatever my thing is. It's just or dog videos or whatever it is. You know, the point is you get here, and I thought, you know what? How can you be better work on being a better person? I'm thinking, what if I work on being a bit player in everybody else's world, and I don't think of myself as the main person? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's funny you should mention that that pitch was in the beginning of my career. I had this promoter in Europe, and I don't know, I don't remember why he said that to me, but he said everybody's the star of their own movie. You have to
mhm,
remember that. Like otherwise you very easily become very self-absorbed or an asshole or whatever.
yeah,
And it was and this pitch is something that I really truly really remind myself all the time. But lately when I went more, like metaphysical or metaphorical with this thought process that like I'm not a spiritual person, and that's why I told you that I like that the Red Book by Jung. Like I'm trying to find a voice to something that I felt. I feel when if I described my work as archaeological layers, each
yeah,
album is another layer. I've and I say this metaphorically, but it's also not metaphorically. I feel it physically. I've reached in my previous album, Anagnosis, a layer that I felt the everythingness or the nothingness, whatever you want to call it. But that thing that sometimes people who go through ayahuasca trips or bad LSD trips or whatever, I don't do
right.
trips, but all my friends do them. And so there are bad trips that you feel disassociated from the self, or maybe that's the point of it. Maybe it's not a bad trip. Maybe that's the good trip. But a lot of people find that disassociation, um, I don't know, bad. I find it the
Right.
most beautiful, awe-inspiring thing. I mean, that's in Eastern practices, that's what you're trying to reach,
Yeah.
the disillusion of the self, right? Like to take off this shell and reunite or you
Release.
yeah, be at oneness. Like and I felt that, but I'm also I'm not a spiritual person. I'm certainly not a religious person. So I don't all I can do is turn my eyes inward and say, where did that place come from? But if I remember that we are all stars of our own movies, I am not narcissistic enough to think that I'm unique in any way, shape, or form. So I can gather.
Well, you are. We all are, though.
Yeah, exactly. To that extent. Exactly. But we all are. And then I can gather that you will have that same experience if you only took the time and effort or whatever bad trip in order to get there. But I really think I don't have any talent at all or skill except the fact that I am stupid or courageous enough to just throw myself in the water all the time. And whatever will happen will happen. That's I think my only power in life, and I say this without like it's not me trying to be artificially humble. I really think that that leads me to not being able to survive without letting it out, and then I have to let it out, and then I don't think I'm an especially good singer. I think I'm just a very emotional persona, and I don't care
I think
enough.
you emote well. I do think you emote well, and I think you're very honest about yourself. But I think for somebody who's spent some years in a studio, you do technically hit the notes and the keys in a way
Yeah,
that are so
yeah.
honest. There is a way that a lot of people in the morning music knowing the industry are going, wow, you're a good singer. There's something about your voice. And maybe the American Idol audience will be like, oh, I don't know if you either like it or you don't. But it's like a lot of any good singer that you ever think about, like in the past when you first heard them, you're like, look at that guy's voice, or look at that. You know what I mean? And now it's like normal.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, yeah, like, yeah, 'cause it's honest, and the world isn't not dissing American Idol. It's just not my thing. Like it's it's you have to look a certain way and sound a certain way, and and that's why I hidden your voice because I heard this. Like, it's androgynous. It's this, is that. I'm like, it's nothing. It's just emotional. I'm like, how would I say it if I was this PR guy? What word would I use? Would it be like the word eight? Because it'd be like eight different sounds I'd hear from it. Like they're all cabled together. Like you know what I mean? So like, how would I do it? Because what's a good way to honestly portray what you're putting out? And you do have a real natural talent that not everyone can do. I mean, some people just can sing honestly, can't hear it honestly, because there are some things. So you do check all the boxes because
I'll
you
I'll
know
take it. I won't
it's
argue.
true. I mean, you do have a talent that maybe, And I think once like most things, people are going to get it maybe later. It's or slow they're getting it, but there is a vocal talent you have that, you know, the world's so closed off now too. You know that. I mean, every country is just a nightmare. And
Yeah.
that's why music is so and music country is so beautiful that it allows this discussion. And that's why I think I kept my show going because this discussion of like everybody from different people in different countries and different parts of my own country can get along. Like it's insane just to talk about something and go from there and share an emotion. If you start that good emotion,
But that's
you
what's
know,
so dangerous about this period where even culture is being um barred and closed
yeah,
and it be used in order to create more walls. And I know how cliche of a cliche it already is, but like art and especially music, which is so um armor piercing and so easily readable, like I just feel like it always has to serve, should serve as a bridge and never as a wall. Like the fact that because I don't agree with somebody or not even with them, with what their country or what their whatever did,
right,
like I would not listen to their music. Like, how would the world look without this cultural melting into one another? That
right.
like the whole beauty of like this neoconservatism of what music is, of like that's why I also don't like the term cultural appropriation as though it's something bad.
Right.
Like, of course, yes,
That's what
appropriate.
music is. Music is actually built on that.
Yeah,
That's actually what
yeah.
music is.
There would be nothing that we know without the evolution of all these cultural, quote unquote,
Right.
appropriations. So I feel it always has to serve that cultural well, that becomes what anybody can draw from. That's why we do it. That's our spiritual and cultural hub that we draw from. And it's open to everybody and it's translatable to anybody. And then it breaks down fictitious barriers. And that's the beauty of it.
How you try to find a balance of not finding one. You want to be a citizen of the world. And I like that belief too, in a way. That's not your quote, you saying it, but I feel like you want to be just a person that's open for people, which to me is kind of like that. And I love that, that's such a great feeling. That's kind of what music is to me. In all art,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
it's of the world. It's of the world.
It's
Let's
of
meet in
the
the
world.
middle, everybody.
Listen, my personal biography is very, specific. I realize that people usually have more roots than I do. But I was a son of diplomat parents, and we're three siblings, three brothers in the family. Each one was born in a different country because my parents and we moved a lot. And then, I've lived now in France for 3 years, and before that, I lived in Italy for 5 years, and before that, whatever. I find myself not looking at the world the way I see a lot of people are
Right.
very adamant
Like
on
football teams, right? Or soccer teams. Everyone's like a
yeah,
team.
yeah, yeah. And there's
And I'm like,
always this
oh,
black and white, good and bad, us and them mentality, which everybody can see where it's leading the world towards
right.
this kind of
Yep.
neo-populist fascism. And I don't believe that's where reality is. I think reality lives in the grayness. It lives in the muddy. It lives
Mhm.
in the dirt between these things. And it's always I don't know, there's compromise in it and there's nuance in it and there is I don't know, it's messy. And that's what I want to bring to my art, but that's also how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life with a restriction of labeling. It just seems so redundant and it seems like a waste of time to me.
I agree with you. I think it is. And I think I gotta be honest with you. So you said you had three brothers. So you have three brothers in a different country. What's the
Hmm.
age gap between you guys?
Not a lot. I mean, I have a brother that's 3 years older than me that was born in New York. I have a brother that's 9 years younger than me that was born in Kingston, Jamaica. I also have my father was he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was in my childhood we were a lot together because we were traveling together, but then my parents separated. But he had other wives previous and since, and so I have half brothers and sisters around. Some of them I know, some of them I don't, and so it's a
That's kind
weird
of fantastic, actually. That's like a family album book type of musical collaboration thing that you could touch on every topic in the world. I just imagine you siblings though being like, siblings like, this is mine, this is mine. You're like, well, my country can beat up your country. Like I just
Yeah.
imagine that like that could be even because you always have something that's one better than the other sibling. You're like, well, my country's this. Well, my country, like, you can one up each other with a country. Most siblings can't do that. Um, sorry, it's kind of stupid there, but I digress on that. But I think it's allowed you to become who you are. And I think through you, that's one thing that you can do you, and I think your music is a vessel of. And I think there's an art does. And I think that's what back when, even in the early 70s when, Vietnam and all the wars and the country having problems, at one point I think music did kind of help slow it down a little bit, you know, the protesting and this and that and music and the danger of rockabilly and this and that throughout the world. It did kind of, I think, slow down I'm hoping music can do it again. But the breakthrough of something kind of break it up again. Hopeful, but I don't know.
I hope so too. I don't see it in the it's just such a different era, like when you look at the 60s and you looked at how, rock and roll was getting out of the alternative scene and becoming kind of like a movement.
Right.
It became
Culture.
the pop culture.
Right.
Um, that's why it could be efficient. And then I was a teenager in the 90s. I remember hearing, like Nirvana or Soundgarden for the first
Mhm.
time, or Rage Against the Machine for the first time. That was there was a movement there. There was
Right.
a lashback at that, Reagan and Thatcher kind of 80s conservatism. And I don't see it right now happening. I mean, there are when you listen to like contemporary artists, not like just I mean that have pop success but are not
Right.
pop like artists like I don't know Kendrick Lamar or Tyler the Creator or whatever. I mean, there's art there. There's people and there's still a lot of
No one's
to
railing
me,
against the you
there's a
know?
lot of ego in there. And I feel like it needs to like one needs to dissolve a bit of the ego and contribute to something that is a more uniting a more united substance. And today as a reaction to
Mhm.
to the world that we're living in.
That's a good point.
Um and I don't think you have to do it through, like folk kumbaya songs. You don't need to join hands together and dance in circles. You can really do it, I hope, like through an investigation of the self or through an
Mhm.
investigation of music through different generations and traditions, or I don't know, there's
Just
all you
real
need
loud
to
guitars.
do, all you need to do is create something that will awaken the possibility of complexity and nuance in others. And I think that will lead to a snowball effect of
Yes.
empathy.
We're
Mm.
gonna end on that because I don't think I can say anything better than that. That is perfect.
I mean, but
It's
really, music does have that power. It's
I
magical.
agree. I agree. And I think that's one of the best things about this. And I think I don't think I know this has been a great interview. I want to thank you. This is
Thank you so much, man.
no less than what I thought it was going to be talking to you and it was special.
Thank you so
You're a
much.
well spoken and well thought out person.